Trump administration stopped funding $2 billion, actually, in this case, for this specific thing, $2 billion toward projects for USAID, which is essentially the world propaganda arm that that the United States runs. And
I want to say, you're going to tell me more about this because you know more about it than I do.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But the thing is that, you know, and I've been watching the headlines on this lately. I haven't delved into it that much, really. I should. I got to look into it more. But it's like you would think that the entire Trump administration was just devastated over this. Like, this is the end. He didn't even get going for a month, and here it is destroyed.
Yeah, but nobody even seems to have really said much. And there's a reason for that. They essentially ruled that the funding must go forward for now. Okay. But it's not an official, it's not like an opinion based on a case that they heard. All they did is they said that a lower court judge, their order stands. And that order was a temporary restraining order that says you got to pay for the work done so far. This is the deadline. You got to pay it. And so it's not that big a deal. Because what's going to happen is the case is eventually actually going to make it to the Supreme Court.
Oh, I see.
So this is one of those cases where it's not actually based on like the merit of the case. It's just based on, actually, they don't actually say what it's based on. They didn't actually give a good reason, but it's still in the lower court. They really haven't heard the case
Okay,
yet.
so I don't understand it then. So it hasn't moved from this lower court, which seems to me should not have the ability to do this.
Right.
But it has not moved from the lower court to the Supreme Court, and the justices have made a decision, and now it's law. That's not what's happened.
No, that has
here.
not happened.
Oh, okay.
That hasn't happened.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court has not decided that the Trump administration can't do anything about stopping.
They just upheld the lower
funding.
court's decision.
No, they didn't uphold a lower court's decision.
Okay.
It was a judge that issued it. It's a standard thing that judges can do. Now, it's a bit crazy what the judge did, I will say, but the judge basically said, no, you got to pay all this money. You can't withhold it. It's for work already completed, and here's the deadline. You got to do it, something like that.
Okay.
And the Trump administration was like,
that's an important fact in this.
Right. The Trump administration was like, no, we're not doing that. We want emergency relief. Supreme Court, help us out. We don't want to pay this. And the Supreme Court was like, we're sticking with what the judge said. So once the case actually makes it to the Supreme Court, then they can actually have a substantial decision. But it's not there yet. This was just like, hey, do we have to abide by this judge's temporary restraining order or not? And now, at the same time, you have some of the more sensible people on the court, like Thomas, Gorsuch, Alito. They were like, well, this is just stupid. The judge can't issue a temporary restraining order that compels the government to spend billions of dollars. That's ridiculous. Right. That's completely out of the judge's jurisdiction. That's not a judicial matter. That's for the executive to decide. Especially because it's an ongoing case. You can't in the middle of this case just say, yeah, you got to pay that. And they're probably right about that. If you find yourself against Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas, you're probably on the wrong side. You probably are making the wrong decision.
So Amy Coney Barrett is not the Wicked Witch of the West?
Amy Coney Barrett, she probably should have sided with them. Yeah. And she should have said, no, this district judge does not have the ability to compel you to spend money. Right. But at the same time, it's not as bad as people think.
Right.
So,
okay.
So this is one of those things.
So I feel a bit better about it.
It happens a lot. It happens
when I was really like wondering about
it. It happens when you read news about Supreme Court decisions all the time. They summarize what's going on. Right. They get a lot wrong. Right. And you miss the context of what it actually means for things going forward.
Okay.
They did the same thing with the gay marriage one with Obergefell. I'm mispronouncing it now. But it was like Supreme Court decides gay marriage is legal. Well, it's like, it wasn't that simple. And then you look at, it's like Thomas hates gay marriage. No, he doesn't hate gay marriage. He just based on the law, it does, stuff like that. Right. So the headlines always totally misconstrue what's actually going on. This is not a final decision by the Supreme Court.
I see. Okay.
So there very well could be one should the appeal process make it to them eventually.
All right. So how does the Trump administration save this?
They have to wait. There's actually going to be hearing today. So by the time this gets out, it'll have already happened. Right. Where the judge has been ordered by the Supreme Court to get more specific. It's like, okay, you want them to fund things, you better be more specific about what's necessary and what's not right now, because you can't just be like, yep, you got to pay this by this date, end of story, $2 billion, go. You got to be more specific. So that's what we're waiting for now. But eventually it's going to get appealed. I mean, the Trump administration probably just won't pay it. That's my guess. They'll probably say no, and then it'll eventually go to the Supreme Court.
That's how it'll get to the Supreme Court.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet, so we'll see what happens.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So it's not this great devastating blow to the entire administration,
It's
derail
not
the
as
entire
big.
presidency.
It's just a little more evidence for people who are skeptical of
Right.
Amy Coney Barrett to begin
A
with.
lot of people are.
Yeah.
Including,
I met her.
Including me. I know you did.
I met her.
I know you did.
I met her at Princeton, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was there for an event. And that was before she was
that was before.
selected.
That was just before.
Yeah, but it was kind of like
We talked about it.
it was almost like she was being prepped for it. Like it's like why is she going around giving these speeches? Because she has to get she has to get familiar with being in the public eye. She has to get good at speaking, stuff like that. Like, speaking in front of groups of people. So it was almost like she was kind of like greasing the wheels there.
She was getting groomed.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we felt at the time, if you remember.
And then she got selected like a few months later.
Yep.
So cool.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So you had your little photo op with a Supreme Court justice who wasn't a Supreme Court
Yes,
justice.
a would-be who is now a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. We liked her more until she got in, and then
I don't hate her as much as
I got concerned about her
think.
because I know she had all those she had the problem with the people in front of her house and all that stuff, which is totally illegal.
she's getting intimidated.
She's being intimidated, and she's a woman. I don't mean to say the women are weak. That's not what I'm saying. Well, they are, but when it comes to that sort of thing, okay, do I think a Supreme Court justice should be? I don't know if a mother of a family really can do a good job in that position, because you have to neglect your family.
Mm-hmm.
Her kids are pretty young, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
Basically, in order to, I don't know how old they are now. At the time, they seemed pretty young, and I thought, oh, that's kind of sad. She's going to go become a Supreme Court justice, and she basically has to leave her kids like with nannies in order to go do this, because her husband was he's a professional guy too. He's got a job. I forget the whole situation.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know what happened with that. So.
Well, the thing is, I was listening to...
I think it's hard. A woman being a Supreme Court justice, is it possible? Absolutely, 100% yes. I didn't see her as the strong person in that position.
I know some people are critical of her. They think she's a bit of a squish. That's what they call it.
Squish.
Yeah, I was listening to Megyn Kelly talk about it too. She's skeptical of her. And she's like, man, like, we get these conservative women, we put them in the powerful position, and then they don't live up to expectation.
Yeah.
But then she caught herself, because she started to say, and she modified it. She said, why can't we get a strong woman in there with some metaphorical balls? As she said it, she realized it was like, oh, like, wait a second. That's
transgender.
Well,
yeah,
I guess, but the point is, it's like, well, we have that expression for a reason. It's like, it's like you're asking for a woman with balls. It's like, well, it's a bit of a contradiction there.
I'm a little less vulgar. I say onions.
Okay.
We need a woman. We need a woman with onions.
All right.